Welcome to a Greater Reality Healing, Living, and Helping meeting. This program helps you to take higher energy paths after big changes and challenges. This can create quantum leaps in your learning, growth, enjoyment, and service to others. The evidence-based information and holistic resources in this program can help you optimally heal, live, and help no matter what your past or current circumstances. Disclaimer: this program is not designed to replace medical or psychotherapeutic care. The agenda for our meeting tonight is a 20-minute presentation by Mark, 20 minutes of Q&A, and then a 30-minute sharing, small group sharing session. The first two parts are being recorded, but the sharing sessions are not. I'd now like to introduce our presenter, Mark Pitstick, MA, DC. Mark has over 50 years of experience helping many people in hospitals, pastoral counseling settings, mental health centers, holistic health clinics, and the like. To learn more, please visit soulproof.com/about. His ebooks, audiobooks, audio programs, and documentary film are all free at soulproof.com/shop.
Thank you very much, and welcome again, everyone. For whom is this their first meeting attending? Raise your hand, please, so we can see. All right, well, we have a couple of newbies. Well, I hope you will resonate with this information and join our online community. Excuse me. While some people are still filtering in, I want to briefly screen share and show you some resources that are available. And so here we are. We're at soulproof.com. Can you see my cursor okay? Yes? Okay. So soulproof.com, and you're looking for the top tab which says Greater Reality Program. So if you click that top tab, you will end up with this page. And as soon as you can, if you haven't heard the introduction, please watch this video. It's 14 minutes long, and that way I don't have to repeat it in the meetings. I've done it several times, but it's basically sharing the vision of this program, how it's possible, who all this program is for. So again, really important to do that. Also under a Greater Reality Program then, recordings of past meetings, all listed here, and everything is free, by the way. And also on this first Greater Reality Program top tab, key articles, an article for each of the three parts: the optimally healing, living, and helping others in our world. And then when are the meetings, how to join the meetings, and then how to receive automated updates, class recordings, and suggested action steps. And you just click here. I'll ask for your first name and email. I'll guarantee you we don't sell or give that to anyone. And while we're at the soulproof.com website, I want to highlight articles. So this is where you would find, for example, number 72 is Greater Reality Living. 82 is Greater Reality Healing. And so the different articles I'll be referring to today. And by the way, have a pen and paper handy or some kind of recording device so you can jot down and record the articles I'm referring to, and then any questions you think of, so you have those for the Q&A. The last thing I would point out, and we're still at soulproof.com, is under shop. And this is where you find my 8 books. If you're not muted, please do so. And 8 books, and the ebooks and audiobooks are free. 10 audio programs, most of them involving deep relaxation and guided imagery, so that you can, for example, have a pre-birth planning session at home. I reproduce these so it's just as though we're in my office having a 2-hour session, only the price is zero instead of $250. So ask your soul angels in the light, afterlife contact, if you want to expand your connection with loved ones who have passed. So be sure you know about, you use those, and then the Soul Proof documentary. So those are resources I wanted to share. So just really briefly, since you have the video to watch, the Greater Reality program provides information and resources to help after any major changes and challenges. Those can include the bodily death of a beloved person or pet, illness and disability, financial reversals, relationship breakups, lack of purpose, loved ones with mental imbalances and addictions, and more. In other words, being a human 101. I mean, this is just stuff that happens, right? So we're talking about taking a higher energy path when this happens. And in other words, as quickly as possible, getting to a place where you have more and more peace, joy, gratitude. And that may seem impossible after big changes that seem like losses from a limited human perspective. But my training experience and many lessons from people I've worked with over the last. Okay, everyone mute themselves, please. Um, Jen, do you have the ability to do that?
I do. I'm just not as quick as I used to be. I'm old.
Okay, thank you for that. So I've learned over the years, I've worked with tens and tens of thousands of people over the last 54 years. I've learned from them how you can have a breakthrough, not a breakdown, how you can become better, not bitter, even after the worst of the worst from a human perspective. These people that I'm referring to, I mean, they're amazing, they're heroes, but there are lots of them, so it's not a one-time thing. And they discovered how to find the silver linings, benefit from them personally, and then share them with others. So that's the theme of all this. That's what's possible. So especially for those of you who are new this evening, whatever you're going through, we have what you need. The free books, audio programs, articles, videos, these meetings, Q&A, sharing sessions, and then follow-up support. And the best way to do that is to email me, mark@soulproof.com. I'll give that again a couple times in the meeting, Mark with a K at soulproof.com. And send me your biggest questions, your toughest challenges. I can guarantee you I've heard it before and I have all the information. It literally only takes me a few minutes, and that's how I'm able to do this with people. So there are 18 different keys to optimally healing, living, and helping, and we'll be talking about two this evening briefly, and you can learn much more about them in the article, number 82, and also in the videos under Greater Reality program. So number 9 is optimally caring for yourself. Anxiety, depression, insomnia, and other symptoms are very, very common. I mean, I know as a holistic physician for 35 years, these are the things people usually don't share with others. Like, you talk to somebody, how you doing? Great. How you doing? Great. But when they come to the doctor, they have a list of 20 significant symptoms, and you'd be surprised how common this is, not only with adults, but now with teenagers and even children. And I discuss all the reasons for that in my book, Radiant Wellness, and also the holistic solutions for that. So there are common imbalances that are at the root of these problems. And this can all get worse if you're grieving, going through really tough times. So it's very difficult to remember who you really are, an eternal soul. You're just visiting here. It's a blink of an eye experience. And why you're here to learn, serve, grow, have adventures, love, enjoy the journey. When you're chronically ill, depressed, anxious, and fatigued, so that's why it's important for you to know about optimal self-care practices and then natural healing approaches that usually can correct any kind of problem. Now we're not talking about a severe crisis and emergency. If you got to break your arm and it's a compound fracture, you don't go to an acupuncture. You don't go to a clinical nutritionist. There's a time and a place for drugs and surgery. But the great majority of symptoms that people have can be addressed, again, with self-care and natural healing methods. So again, Radiant Wellness book under shop explains how to do all that. Now, you may also need an integrative, excuse me, medical doctor who recognizes the value of natural healing methods. Sometimes medications are needed to get a person through a tough spot and then can be weaned off of, but there are usually better approaches. So the articles for this key are number 12, and the title is Optimal Self-Care. I'll give these numbers again. 32, Nutrition-Based Healing. The single most powerful modality I used after all those years. I mean, I pre-med degree, working in the hospitals, theology school, clinical psychology, doctor of chiropractic, clinical nutrition. And of all the things I use, if I could only have one tool in my tool chest, it would be this nutrition-based healing. It works miracles. And when you see the article, you'll see, I mean, there's almost no disease on that list that didn't respond. For me, my associate doctors, and many other colleagues that I know about. Article number 33 called Six Stressors. Most people don't know about these, but these are the underlying causes like excess electromagnetic fields, excess microorganisms, viruses, yeast, bacteria. And there, again, are ways to deal with these naturally. And finally, 87, natural health care. So those article numbers again at soulproof.com, 12, 32, 33, 87. And yes, you can say hike if you want. I'm going back to my football days. Key number 10, centering practices. So these are ways to quiet your brain. Some people don't do well with seated meditation, and so they do better with more active approaches. That can be walking in nature, that can be playing with a pet or a child, it can be sewing, gardening. There are all kinds of ways. The common theme in all these is that it quiets your brain. It stops that incessant worrying and analyzing that most of us go through. Those of you who have attended other meetings know that the brain, even though it's a wonderful tool, perceives much, much less than 1% of reality. And that's why we use it as a tool, but not as an indicator about the nature of reality, what's going on. So I use the analogy, it's like most people are walking around looking through a tiny pinhole and then wondering, why did this happen? Why me, God? Or maybe there's not a God, or life is so cruel and unfair. When in fact, if you can see just a little bit more, you will see more of the big picture of life and realize there's a sense and a sensibility for it. So again, that's why it's important to regularly quiet the brain, and that way you can, the old saying, be still and know I am God. Now, I had an amazing experience yesterday with this theme. So I woke up first thing in the morning, how you just kind of open one eye, what time is it? And all of a sudden, boom, here's this download for an article. And it's on this very theme. It started off to be still and know I am God and to quiet the brain. And it started off, this download was share my personal 21-year-old experience, which was when I was 21 years old, I thought I was going to marry my first love of 4 years. We already had the names of our 3 kids picked out, where I was going to live, what I was going to be doing. None of that happened. It recalls the saying, you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. So and I went through my own suffering, and that's one reason I'm able to teach about it now because I know about these things firsthand. But the message was that all that I went through, the drama and the pain, and why me, and if I would have done something else, that's all just ruminations of the brain. That's a self-induced torture, none of it based on reality, really, but based on what my brain thought would happen, expected to happen, assumed would happen, instead of what did happen. And years later, I can look back and see all that as a giant blessing. But it took a while for that, but you don't have to wait so long. So I made a file, a Word document. I created an outline for the article, and we'll get to it in a week or so. Well, last night we had a Helping Parents Heal class, and it's called Ask the Soul Doctor. And people ask questions, like, well, you'll have a chance to ask any questions you want in a bit. So there was this mom, and I haven't got her permission to use the story yet. So I will just say there was this mom, and she was saying, well, my question is, I can't stop my brain from going on and on since my son passed about a year ago. And so I started talking about centering practices. And I said to her on a regular basis, these will help you be still and know you are part of God. It will help you be still and know your son is right there beside you. And she went, oh my God. And she turned around and pointed to a picture behind her. It was a picture of her son, and underneath of it was written the very same thing. Be still and know he is right beside me. I had never said that line in my life. I mean, I say, be still and know I am God now and then. I had never said that second part. And so everybody was just like, wow, what are the chances? And so that, in that case, I was channeling, I was picking up. I mean, my best explanation of what happened was her son and perhaps some other kids of the parents who attended last evening ganged up together, and like as soon as Mark wakes up, we're going to barrage, we're going to send him this thought bomb. And in a positive way, I detected it. That's why I created the article outline. But then for some reason, they were able to alter what I said. Again, a line I'd never used in my life that was right behind the mom. And you want to talk about somebody light up. It's like the moment in the movie Ghost with Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze. When she saw the penny floating in the air, she immediately went from pain and grief and anger to joy and peace and realized, oh my gosh, he really is beside me. So it was a powerful moment. And I was telling our moderators beforehand, while we're talking about parents and kids, the moderator, Margaret, was telling me her son, Ken, passed on about 10 years ago. And I said, well, is he part of your team? You visit with him? And she said, oh yeah, we're buds. She said it started not long after he passed. She said I would be driving, no one else in the car, and I would feel his presence all of a sudden, and the seatbelt alarm monitor would go off saying you need to fasten your seatbelt for the front passenger seat. But again, nobody's sitting there. She said, I figured it was him, but maybe there was some sort of electrical anomaly. But later, she had to rent a car, and the same thing happened in the rental car. So this is what we call validation or evidential signs, which are very common when any sort of loved one passes, person or pet, if you keep your eyes open. You probably won't detect them if you're down in the dumps and why is me and angry and stuck in all the lower energy emotions. So that's why we talk about higher energy path. So the articles associated with this topic Number 68, the big picture of life. Number 77, centering practices. And 86, breathing techniques. So again, those are 68, 77, 86 to learn more about how to quiet the brain and get in touch with your higher self, your eternal consciousness, the totality of your energy that knows the big picture of life. And also you get in more touch with your angels, guides, and the light, so you know how to live and you know you're going to get through this no matter what you're going through. All right, those are the keys I wanted to share. And at this point, we'll open up to anyone who has any questions about anything, about the topics we just covered, or about anything at all. Again, I'm some old guy that's been working all this for 54 years, and I've got the answers. I'm not bragging. It's just that, I mean, I'd be stupid if I didn't have the answers after all this training and work. So here's your chance. Who would like to share the first question? Jackie, you keep smiling, and I'm going to have to ask you to volunteer there.
There. Yeah, my name's Jackie. I don't have any questions per se. I just am enjoying the conversation. I also believe in afterlife, and there's people always around us, whether we're recognizing that or not. I'm logically, I know, and but yeah, I just think this is quite lovely. And speaking of parents, that would be interesting. Did you record the workshop last night? That would
Yes.
be good to
Yeah, we
see.
did. And excuse me, I'm giving the keynote
Hmm,
at the
okay.
Helping Parents Heal conference this August, 1,100 parents. And I think I'm going to show that video. I could probably do it in a minute or less
Hmm.
because, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
Yeah, because my daughter, she actually passed a melanoma in October. Uh, if do you have time for just a quick story? How?
that's what we're here for. Yeah,
Okay,
questions, stories.
okay, thank you. Then I'll just share just a short one. So me and I have two children, and we were both actually both we were estranged, right? For whatever reasons. And but my daughter, she had when she was young, she had brain cancer. She was 17, and then she passed last October at 33 with melanoma. And it was just really hard for me. And then I thought, oh my gosh, she didn't even call me to tell me, because we'd been estranged. And so anyway, fast forward, uh, I believe that she's over on the other side with my mom, and I've been talking to her since she passed, my daughter, Caitlin, like just expressing myself to her, like, the anger, the sadness, the disappointment, all of it, all of it. And then for Mother's Day, my son actually reached out and texted me, and I haven't heard from him in 5 years. So
Nice.
I was like, oh my gosh, Caitlin, thank you so much. I believe that she's up in there doing some magic for healing, even, on the other side. And
Yeah.
so that's my story, that it's never too late. It just, it just is, just happened.
Well, that's a beautiful story, and thank you for sharing it. And we have some
Yes.
evidence from, excuse me, evidential mediums. So I talk about mediums in article number 6, but independently, 3 or 4 of them will describe the same thing. They're like, I see 4 kids together, and she's describing each one, and they're working together to make this happen or get a message through to someone. And again, if you hear it, excuse me, we're having pollen everywhere in our area. When you hear that from one person, like, okay, maybe that's true. But when you hear the same report from 3 or 4 different people independently, you're like, gosh, we're getting a glimpse. Again, we're seeing more of the big picture of life and what's really going on versus what our brain thinks. So that's beautiful. You sharing reminded me of another mom I will tell about from last evening. So this is a mom named Joanna, and she was like you. I mean, she is beaming and energy. And her 16-year-old son passed 3 months ago. It was her baby. And I was like, wow, well, you're pretty fired up. I'm impressed. She said, yeah, she didn't know about shared death experiences, or also called shared crossings. I discussed these in article number. I'll grab this in a moment. Um, but she and her family, she has 9 brothers and sisters, and everybody was there in the room when her little guy, Logan, passed on. 96, shared crossings, 96. So she was saying, well, yeah, since he passed, the room filled with light, and we all felt this deep peace, and the room seemed to shift. It seems like we weren't really there, like we went to where he was. And I said, do you know about shared crossing? She said, no, I never heard of him. I said, well, you guys had one, and all of her brothers and sisters are likewise. They're just floating on cloud nine, and they're all asking, what do we do with this? Okay, to honor Logan and to use all this energy and love, how do we identify our highest missions and how can we act on that? And again, find the blessings. And whoa, that's what we're talking about here. You know, that's the level of energy, of hope, of peace we're talking about. Well, so thank you, Jackie. Okay, Erica, you have your hand up.
Um, Hi, Mark.
Hello.
Um, I've been getting your emails quite frequently and reading about,
Excuse me 1 second, Erica.
yeah,
Number one, I see you? Can you enable your video?
sure.
And secondly, I have some hearing loss. There we go. So, yeah, speak right into the microphone. So let's start from the top.
Yeah, I was just saying I've been getting your newsletters and, following and stuff to get information. And it's probably totally off topic, but seeing the one that you had today, I just really wanted to come in and just, I guess, basically just ask about the whole, if there's some other place. I'm going through a really hard time right now, and I'm going to be displaced soon. And I'm really scared and anxious. And I've been trying to get help to see if I could get my situation resolved. And there's no help. And I'm really seriously thinking about just go ahead and not being here anymore.
Sure. Well, first of all, this is going to take some work, and I'm glad to do it. So, did you get my email I shared earlier? Mark@soulproof.com.
Yes.
In other words, I'm not going to be able to work with you on the spot because I mean, I'll make some initial suggestions, but this is going to take some one-on work via email. But so do you want to share what happened or what started or not really in the group?
Yeah. It's like, okay, I still was grieving the fact that my mom passed. My son, he wasn't doing really good and he passed recently. Um, I was working, trying to regroup and get myself together. And then the department that I was in, they had a budget cut, so they fired the whole department. And so then I had gotten behind because I had exhausted all of my savings and everything. So I basically just am at the thing. I got an eviction notice on Monday.
Oh, Lord.
And it's just a lot. It's just a
Sure.
lot. And I've been dealing with a lot for a long time. It's really hard for me to open up and talk to people because I'm pretty much, to myself and I don't really bother anybody or reach out for anything. And it pretty much just by me calling, trying to see if there was any resources where I could get some help. It's like there's always a no, there's nothing available. So that even reinforced why I stay by myself. Because it's like I feel like nobody cares.
Yep. Well, that's part of why we're here. So thank you for sharing this, Erica. And you can bet other people go through similar things. You know, when one bad thing happens, it's tough enough, but you just mentioned 3 or 4 tough things And then at some point, yeah, you just feel like giving up. The thing is, if you chose suicide as a way out, and I wouldn't judge you because I know you're in so much pain. The chances are your soul will choose to be in a similar situation again in the future, because your soul likely. Do you know about the concept of soul planning? Like your soul
I've, I've,
plans.
I've heard a little bit, but not
Yeah,
completely. Okay.
there's a good chance your soul planned to go through this, not to, torture you, but to help you develop strength of spirit. The old saying, that which does not kill me makes me stronger. And so you're at a fork in the road right now, and you have the ability to get through this and have a marvelous, marvelous story. And these are the people I've talked about who have done this. I mean, some of them have been paralyzed from the waist down, from the neck down. I'll tell you one, Geraldine Murray. She would love for me to use her name. She was an African American woman, a dear friend of mine. And in the 30s, she was a 13-year-old girl, and her uncle raped her. And she told her parents, and they said, "You're making that up." Well, he kept it up, and she got pregnant, and her parents threw her out. So now she's African American, big city, poor, on the streets, nowhere to go, nothing to do. And she got through it. She found a way. So then, many years later, she was about 75 years old. She was talking to a group of 200 people. She was a unity minister. She helped so many people. And she told that story. And she said, if I could go back and do that over and avoid all that, I wouldn't, because it gave me such a strength of spirit, and it allowed me to help so many people that I wouldn't have otherwise if I hadn't gone through such a tough spot. So email me. I will get right back with you. And, this is what I did as a psychologist, emergency services specialist. And we'll go over the steps that you can do to get through this, okay?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Just,
Yeah.
well, may I just, usually in most cities, there's a 211 directory. If you call 211, they'll have a directory of emergency services that Erica, you could, call them and that counselor would be able to assist, hopefully, in sending love and light.
Yeah.
211. It's like 911, only 211. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Every county in the U.S. has emergency services, crisis prevention, and counseling. So there are resources available. You just haven't got in touch with them yet, dear. Well, welcome to life. I mean, this is what goes on. And partly when we see someone suffering that much, that many ways, it's like, well, that makes my shit look easier, first of all. But secondly, we realize, okay, let's keep her in prayer. Let's help others as we can. And that helps us get through our own things. So, Anita, you're up next, please. But you're muted. You have to unmute yourself. There we go.
Okay. First, I
Hello.
wanted to say to Erica that numerous of us, I think, have been there. At least I have. It's a miracle. I just turned 68. It's a miracle I'm alive. I've been through so many people trying to kill me, so many car accidents, you name it, shot at, like, it's a miracle. I'm not only alive, but I have a beautiful daughter, and last year was blessed with a beautiful grandson. I never thought that miracle would happen either. So, but one thing somebody taught me was when you feel like you've lost everything, you really need to change your perspective to the point of, can you breathe? Can you take in air? you know, do you have enough calories to be alive today? If so, you have everything you need right now.
Yeah,
And
get to the
and that's
basics.
one thing nobody can take away from you. You're alive. No, nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah, good for you. Well, thank you for sharing that. Any other what's another thing that helped you turn the corner, go from a place of despair to seeing even just a little light and hope?
Having attempted suicide 3 times and failed, I think what helped me was keeping a sense of humor and having curiosity. I was like, it couldn't possibly get worse, could it? It's
Mm,
like
wow.
it, I mean, really, and um I've tried to correct some of that negative thinking, but I've really been led on some wild, sequences of events that
Yeah.
you just shake your head. It's kind of like modern history.
Well, thank you for sharing that because, now you're smiling. You're obviously doing much better. I'm not saying life's perfect, but a lot better. So that really helps, for all of us to see that. Speaking of suicide, by the way, I'll share. I don't know if any of you know this famous inventor, mathematician, philosopher named Buckminster Fuller. He's a genius. He invented the geodesic dome. I think he had 1,000 patents. Amazing guy. His books I read in college were very transformative for me. Buckminster Fuller. So he had a family, wife, and kids, and his inventions weren't selling. He was inventing amazing things, but he couldn't get anybody to invest in them and to pay him. And so he had a life insurance policy that if he passed, his family would get enough money. So he was standing on a high bridge, getting ready to jump. And just then he heard a huge voice, and he wasn't sure if it's from within him or all around him. And it said, "You don't have a sufficient perspective of life to make this decision." It said, "What if you went forward in faith and from now on just do your very best, follow your dreams as well as you can, and trust that you will be supplied?" And he's like, "Okay, well, that's a pretty amazing voice. I'll listen to it." And that's what he did. And he lived to age 90 and wrote all those books and helped so many people. Buckminster Fuller, yeah, he's a hero. He's a cult hero. So yeah, we don't have a big enough vision of the big picture of life to make that move in many cases. So I should mention, since suicide was mentioned earlier. Uh, Number 5, if you are considering suicide, and then number 36, suicide prevention, a number of things that can be done to make other choices. So thank you again there, Anita. Wow, so we're making it real this evening, huh? No lightweights here. All right. Well, that is actually exactly 20 minutes for our Q&A. And so at this point, we're going to shift into what are called sharing groups. But I will do a quote close before I start the sharing session. So our next meeting is on Sunday, May 24th at 11 a.m. Eastern. And if you sign up for that free automated messages I showed you, you'll get all this automatic. So with Craig Hogan, PhD, Dr. Hogan is the president of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute, AREI, and also Seek Reality online. That, by the way, is where I met Dr. Gary Schwartz, Elizabeth Boyson, president of Helping Parents Heal. I was getting ready to speak at the Phoenix Unity Church, and she took me to the AREI conference. I think they had 400 or 500 people, and that's the first time I met Dr. Schwartz. So that was pretty life-changing information. Craig co-authored the book Induced After-Death Communication with Alan Botkin, and also Repair and Reattachment Grief Therapy with Rochelle Wright, and wrote 9 other books. So he's an amazing person. I'll be very excited to interview him and for our program members to be able to ask questions and learn from him. So I hope this program assists your journey. Again, remember all the resources and email me, mark@soulproof.com, and we will provide what you need to get through this. This is what this program is about. So let us know. Don't suffer in silence. You don't have to do this on your own. And then later on, when you get better, you can pay it forward and help others. So God bless and let it shine.